Hello, so glad you're here. My name is Todd, and let me tell you this, I never got picked first for like any sporting event. You know what I'm talking about? Like when it was like time to play dodgeball or basketball, and you have like two captains to pick the teams, and everyone lines up, and it kind of looks like this.
Kind of like...
I'll take Barkley.
Yes, I still got it. I told her she picked me first.
Yep, even easier than that.
All right, so like how hilarious is that? A former pro basketball player like talking trash on kids in a basketball game. Well, I was kind of like the kid like at the end, like arms crossed, saying to myself, like seriously, like what does it take to like get picked? I wasn't tall and I wasn't wildly athletic, but I tried hard and I was a good teammate. But those aren't the things that like gets picked like when you're the kid on the playground. As we jump into this new series called Crown, we are going to talk about the kings of Israel and how they got picked and what they were like. So probably the most famous king that we talk about in all the Old Testament is David. And we are going to spend a lot of time getting to know him. But for all epic characters and all stories, books, and movies, we must unpack their backstory. In the Old Testament book of Deuteronomy in the Bible, it says, "Be sure to select as king the man the Lord your God chooses. You must appoint a fellow Israelite. He may not be a foreigner." Okay, so the first king, Saul, gets picked from the wrong tribe, and right away he doesn't do what God asks, and very quickly it is known that he is not a great ruler. So why did he get picked? Much like in basketball, he was picked because he looked the part. He was tall and strong. But tall and strong doesn't make a great leader. He lacked confidence and was selfish and never sorry for the wrongdoings. Not the right fit to lead God's people. Thoughts are that Saul helped teach the Jewish people that faith in God was more important than faith in human to protect them. God then makes it clear that a ruler needs to be strong of heart and faith. Time to choose a new leader. So here we go. There's this guy named Samuel that was in charge of listening to God and picking the next king. He goes to the town of Bethlehem to the house of Jesse. So picture this. Jesse has many sons. And like the sports things on the playground, they line them all up to see who shall be picked to be king. Samuel sees all the tall, strong boys to pick from and gets excited. But God speaks to him in this moment and says no to all of them that were in front. And he asks, "Is there another?" And in fact, there was. The youngest brother was still out in the fields with the sheep. He says, "Bring him here." Here's what it says in the Bible. 1 Samuel 16:7. "People judge by outward appearances, but the Lord looks at the heart." God wanted this youngest son. His name was David for his heart and courage and unassuming nature. There are lots of parallels between who David was and who eventually Jesus will be. They both came from the same area, the same family, and they both were not who humanity would have picked to save the kingdom. Speaking of David's kingdom, the most famous thing that he did as a young man was to win a war against their enemies, the Philistines, when there was no hope. You see, there was this giant named Goliath that they could not beat, and the battle seemed hopeless. Goliath would stand on the battlefield and mock them. In fact, in 1 Samuel it says this. This is Goliath speaking. "Choose a man and have him come down to me. If he is able to fight and kill me, we will become your subjects. But if I overcome him and kill him, you will become our subjects and serve us." Then the Philistines said, "This day I defy the armies of Israel. Give me a man and let us fight each other." On hearing the Philistines' words, Saul and all the Israelites were dismayed and terrified. They asked, "Who can take on this giant?" And David, a little shepherd boy, stepped forward. We think of this matchup, and I look at this photo. Now, The Rock is a huge guy, and Kevin is a small guy. But the stories of Goliath is that he was like 9 feet tall. Friends, this is an epic story that you need to read. It's full of doubt and triumph, but I love this passage when David finally meets Goliath on the battlefield. And Goliath has been making fun of how small David is and how little his armor and weapons are. But then David says this. David says to the Philistine, "You come against me with sword, spear, and javelin, but I come against you in the name of the Lord Almighty, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. This day, Lord will deliver you into my hands, and I will strike you down and cut off your head. This very day, give the carcasses of the Philistine army to the birds and the wild animals, and the whole world will know that there is a God in Israel. All those gathered here will know that this is not by sword or spear that the Lord saves. For the battle is the Lord's, and he will give all of you into our hands." Whoa, go David! Please read the whole story. It is like epic. David beats Goliath with a sling and a rock, then he cuts his head off and carries it around for a while to show off. As cool as the thoughts of conquering in battle are, the takeaway is that God is with God's people when they focus on God's will. We are not defined by our height, our looks, or our money. We are God's creation, and God values our heart. We are always God's first pick when we follow God first. May we seek God first in our lives. Amen.